Hey everyone, welcome to WEI Tech Talk. I'm Therese Jardine, and today I'm talking with Francis Eshun. Francis is an associate data engineer at a large Northeastern insurance company. He recently completed an apprenticeship, and today we get to talk about how that has impacted his career path. To get to know you a little bit better, I noticed that you went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I wanted to hear from you what were some of the favorite things that you had with your time at Amherst.
Yeah. Yeah, Amherst was a great experience for me. It was the on-campus environment, the classes, my professors. It was just always something going on. It felt lively. But my favorite part of Amherst was definitely the classes that were more generalized and more broad and not like part of my major. Like for example, history. Like those are the classes I really, really enjoyed.
That's awesome. Well, so you said you really enjoyed your non-mathy classes, but what was it that inspired you to get your degree in computational and applied math?
It's a funny story actually. I when I applied to college, I actually applied to be like an engineering major. And I've always been like a problem solver. Math was my thing, and
Mhm.
like going more towards that technical route was something I found myself gravitating towards. But when I applied for engineering, I was somehow thrown into the computer science track, my quote unquote major, and I that was when I was first exposed to like computer science, the whole concepts of like coding and data structures and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I sort of moved towards that, but then I had like this one impactful math professor who I really enjoyed my time running classes with him, and he encouraged me to like study math because, he saw like the potential of me using like my problem solving skills to like doing math. And I enjoyed math as well. So at a certain point, I just thought maybe I enjoy these two things. Why not combine them? And, you know, that'd be the perfect major for me. So that's how I ended up choosing math with like focus on computation and applied.
So what was it that surprised you the most making the transition from college to starting your career?
Yeah, what surprised me the most is that a lot of the college um, experience did not prepare me for the real world. Um, College was very theoretical. Um, it was very much not what is done in the real world, which is more applied, and what you've learned in college might not be even what's being used in the real world anymore. I'd say though I had that theoretical and logical experience built up in my college days, the real world experience felt like a whole new refresh where we had to like learn everything over again. And that experience it was very helpful to like have that learning experience from college and then to transfer those learning skills to the real world because I think without that I'd probably be struggling a lot more in my role right now because everything in the real world that I'm constantly learning, constantly evolving. The real world is more messier than the college environment, but I'd say it's definitely a learning experience. So
Well, someone told me when I was graduating college years ago was kind of the same thing. And it's like you go to college to learn how to learn. And you get the building blocks, but then when you launch yourself into the real world, there's so much that's different. And like you said, it's a little messy out here, isn't it? So it looks like you did an internship and then the apprentice program.
yeah, that's right.
How would you compare those two experiences?
Yeah, so I would say the internship that I did was a little bit long. It was about a year, but during that time, I got some hands-on experience on like as a data analyst. During my time there, I learned how data analysis works, and I would say that the main key difference between like an apprenticeship and the internship felt like the apprenticeship felt more that the work I was doing had an impact on the business than compared to an internship where although I did have an impact to the business, I didn't like feel that as much. I would say the apprenticeship felt more like I was getting like that hands-on experience directly with every day to day. In terms of projects, I felt more like I could fail more and I would get that right mentorship in the apprenticeship program as compared to the internship, where things were very much set in stone and the impact or the projects that I was working on, even though I would probably make a mistake, didn't feel like they impacted as much, which is great for an intern. But when you're getting that real world experience for like an apprenticeship, it's probably better to have that sort of tangible effect and to see how you can grow as a better person in the organization.
The freedom to make a mistake is really impactful because that's how we learn, right? I can remember some mistakes I made early in my career that I'm so glad I made them because I learned so much from it and was able to, point myself in the right direction after that. So, you talked a little bit about the mentorship and how did that aspect of the program, apply to you and shape how you look at the industry as you're in it now?
I think I had a person in the internship or the apprenticeship program named Ursula, um,
Mhm.
and she was amazing. She was always encouraging to me. Um, I had like a strong sense of imposter syndrome when I stepped into this apprenticeship position, and she would always be encouraging me, like, "No, Francis, you're doing fine. You're doing well. Like, here's what you do. Here's how you might ask for help. Here's like some resources you might need. Here's like some professional practices to do when you're communicating with your boss, or maybe you have like a conflict, or I feel like a more well-rounded like individual compared to like some of these things where I would probably take me some time to figure out on my own.
I totally get it because when you're working in the technical stuff, you still have to be able to communicate your ideas up the chain through leadership and to your boss. And there's no workplace out there that conflict doesn't come up. And so having the skills to manage the conflict and navigate through a way to a resolution is probably one of the most important things you'll learn, I think. So as you were going through the apprenticeship, what kind of skills did you get that you didn't have just from graduating from college?
There were a lot of technical skills that I didn't have from graduating college because the tools again that we use in the real world are not the same that we use in college. Especially the trainings were helpful. I learned some tools like Power BI. I learned some like methods of programming that were not being taught in school that were very much like being used in the industry, especially things like some tools in Python for data pipelines and all the other sort of technical aspects of things.
And so do you think, I mean, if you had to change, like if you were to change roles or if you changed companies or maybe your company made a change in what their stack was going to look like, do you feel like you're equipped to make that adjustment based on what you've learned so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because I've learned a new tech stack, I'm doing well with it so far, so why not do it again? The one thing that I seem to have learned is that sometimes there are better tech stacks out there for what we do. However, we are constrained by the organization of things, and that's just normal. It's understandable. So
Mm.
if there's like a new tool that we want to be able to use, for instance, that might help us accomplish a new thing or a new feature, sometimes it's better to look internally at the tools that we already use and see how we can expand upon that. Because not only are we going to have to go through security for approval, or we're going to have to go through like compliance, we're going to have to go through, all these other departments like securing budget for new software or something like that. If there's
Mhm.
something that we can use already, we try to expand that. And I think that like that holds for any organization. I think this apprenticeship has taught me a lot about like doing more with less. And it's not just an organization of this. I think it's for every organization. It's better to use what you have and be creative with it.
Well, coming from, I used to work at Microsoft years ago, and the notion of having the Frankenstack is very real. People, would be, oh, there's this or there's that, but then you end up with this, discombobulated patchwork of various different applications, and so really having the discipline to look at, what you have available and adapt it to what you need, I think is a much better approach for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that, and I've learned so much from what we can do.
Well, going back to, your time with your apprenticeship, what, as you were going through that, was there any kind of a pivotal moment or project that really shaped how you look at what your career could look like?
There was my second project that I was put on during my apprenticeship was I guess the biggest game changer for me. I was tasked with, I don't know if I could share, but I was tasked with uh, putting together, I guess a piece of a software that would help link to connecting, I would say, databases, essentially moving data from one place to another automatically on a regularly timed schedule. That was, I guess, the big opener for driving me into like the position that I am today, because it really pushed me to like understand things that was never taught to me or I never understood before. It really pushed me to ask questions, ask my peers questions, ask my bosses questions, Google a lot, pay attention to the trainings and things like that. So that second project was like a huge opener for me, because it really made me understand like this is the work that is important in this field that I'm in and this role that I'm in, and it really like set me up for success, because now I understand what I'm doing. I can like teach other people what I've learned, especially like the newer people who are joining the company in similar positions as me. That was the project, I guess. We had a third party vendor who kept data on specific things that our underwriters required to see
Got it.
before they wrote like a premium or something.
Uh-huh.
And what this project was is every time we'd have an underwriter would want to see a new locations data, like let's say they were writing like for a property in some location, they would have to call what the software I was building, which is like sort of an API, to get that data and to see whether the risks of this property are worth insuring or not. This data that we get has to be linked into like the database that we already have to see what other data we have collected on this property, or um, who we're insuring and all this other complex stuff. So it really forced me to understand like how calling an API works, how storing data in these weird formats work, and how to automate that whole process so that it's not like a manual thing anymore. When the underwriter clicks it, all that whole process gets done and they see the data right where they need it. That was really impactful for me.
Francis, can you talk a little bit about what your current role is? It'd be really interesting to hear what your day to day looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So the role I'm in now is it's called an associate data engineer. That involves me making data pipelines, automating a lot of reporting, building Power BI dashboards for whatever team might need it, and sometimes building web apps for internal use, where maybe like let's say like an internal user might have some data they might want to upload or download, or many other several things. It's not just uploading and downloading. That's what my role currently involves right now. The apprenticeship prepared me for this role because of the trainings that we did. Again, I learned Power BI completely new from the apprenticeship program, and it's something that like I work with a lot more than I thought I would. So the apprenticeship training definitely was impactful in what I do today, but I'd say a lot of what I do came from the mentorship and the on-the-job experience, I would say. I think that is where the apprenticeship really helped me, again, to make those mistakes and to know that people had my back, and to teach me when I faltered or made mistakes was really, really important to how I am as an effective data engineer today.
Sounds like you have a pretty good culture where you work.
It's amazing. I can just go ask anyone if I have a problem with something, and anyone can ask me if they have a problem with something, and we're always communicating. We're always pointing out like things that we could do better. It's amazing.
That's great. Do you work in the office, or are you remote, or is it a mix?
I go to the office. I try to go like at least once a week or twice a week. But a lot of my team workers are remote, so even though we're remote, we still work very well together.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen a problem with remote work at all. It's fantastic.
I think we all had to learn how to do it, and now we're loving it, right?
Yeah,
I do miss going to an office sometimes, though. I won't lie about that. Just,
yeah.
the banter and joking around that can go on is just as important as the work that gets done, I think.
I know exactly, which is why I like to go in too, because it can get a bit lonely at home sometimes. That I have friends who are like at the office, so like I go in and we have a good time, just to see people. It's great.
Well, it's been really a lot of fun chatting with you. And I guess I'd like to close out by asking, what would you say to somebody who would be considering an apprenticeship like what you completed?
Yeah, I would say in my case, came into the working world, I would say, with experience as a data analyst, right? And I liked the data analyst role, but I felt like I had opportunity and I wanted to do a more technical role than what was data analysis. Not to say data analysis not it's not technical, but
Mhm.
wanted to be um, more coding, more programming, more of that logical aspect of things because that's what I knew and what I wanted to practice. So I would say that this apprenticeship helped me steer me towards that track. There were, again, a lot of things that I didn't know that I had to learn on the job and with the training. Having that apprenticeship was like a sort of a switch for me into something that I wanted to do. So, in my experience, the apprenticeship is great for someone who would like to move into a role that they might not have the opportunity to have moved into before, because it prepares you for that role. It prepares you for that transition. And once you're done with the apprenticeship, it's like you are where you want to be. So if you're someone who's looking for like that sort of career switch, or someone who is maybe out of college who doesn't really know what they want to do, but they have an idea of what to do, and you're sure about that, I would say the apprenticeship is a very, very, very grateful thing that I'd say worked for me. So I'm sure it would work for them as well.
Francis, it's been great chatting with you today and hearing about how the apprenticeship that you went through has really set the stage for giving you the thirst for knowledge and pursuing your skills and improving on them day after day. So I'm looking forward to following you on LinkedIn and your career and wish you all the best of success. And for those of you listening who would like to hear more about the apprenticeship program and particularly how it can be life changing for the participants, as well as have a positive impact on your own IT teams, please visit weI.com or follow us on LinkedIn and stay up to date.